From the outside, the middle class often looks stable. Bills get paid most of the time. Life moves forward and there's usually a routine. There's often progress, even if it's slow. And because of that, it's easy to believe that financial stability is something you either have or don't have, something tied to your income or a job title. But real stability isn't about how things look when everything is going right. It's about what happens when something goes wrong. Because one unexpected event can undo years and years of steady progress if there's nothing in place to absorb the shock. That's why stability isn't the same thing as wealth. Stability is the ability to take a hit and keep going. And today we're going to talk about 3 specific tools that make that possible for the middle class. First of all, what does middle class stability actually mean? Middle class stability isn't about winning financially. It's about not losing ground. Most middle class households aren't trying to get rich quickly or chase big upside. They're trying to build a life that works and keep it working. That usually means reliable income, predictable expenses, and slow, steady progress over time. The paychecks arrive on schedule and the bills are mostly known in advance. There's a rhythm to money, but that rhythm depends on everything continuing to function. For example, housing and transportation costs are fixed. Insurance, childcare, food, utilities, debt payments, and most of the budget is locked in. So there isn't much flexibility in that system. That's why stability for the middle class often isn't about growth rates or investment returns, but often about margin. How much room exists between what comes in and what goes out? If that margin is thin, then stability is fragile. But if that margin is protected, progress can survive disruption. True middle-class stability means that when life throws a curveball, you don't immediately start falling backward. You may pause or even slow down, but you don't unravel. That's the goal, not perfection, not acceleration, just resilience. That leads us to the first tool, the emergency fund. The emergency fund is probably the single most important tool for protecting middle-class stability because it absorbs everyday shocks before they spread. It protects everything else you want to do from a financial shock. When we talk about financial emergencies, most of them aren't even dramatic. They're often just annoying. A car repair, a medical bill, a temporary income gap. But without cash on hand, those annoyances become crises. The emergency fund exists to keep problems small. It's not there to make money. It's not there to grow. It's there to create space. I'm talking about space to think, to breathe, and to avoid panic-driven decisions. Without an emergency fund, people are forced to pull money from places it shouldn't come from. For example, retirement accounts get raided, investments get sold at the worst possible time, and credit cards become life support. One emergency doesn't just cost money, it damages the entire financial structure. An emergency fund prevents that chain reaction. It keeps investments invested, it keeps long-term plans intact, and it keeps debt from snowballing. For the middle class, that protection matters more than optimization. You can't benefit from growth strategies if you're constantly recovering from setbacks. The emergency fund is boring by design, and that's why it works so well. The next tool is insurance. Insurance is the second critical tool for middle-class stability, because some risks are simply too large to handle on your own. No realistic emergency fund can cover a major medical crisis, a long-term disability, a serious accident, or a large legal claim. These events are rare, but when they happen, they can wipe out years or decades of progress instantly. Insurance transfers that risk away from your personal finances. Health insurance that prevents medical costs from becoming overwhelming. Disability insurance that protects income if your ability to work disappears. Auto and home insurance that protect against accidents and liability that could otherwise spiral out of control. Most of the time, insurance feels useless because nothing happens. That's a feature, not a flaw. Insurance exists for the worst days, not the average ones. And for the middle class, uninsured disasters are especially dangerous because recovery is slow and uncertain. One uninsured event can permanently change the trajectory of a household. Insurance doesn't make you money. It protects the progress you've already made from being erased overnight. The third tool are retirement accounts. Retirement accounts are the third pillar of middle-class stability, because stability isn't just about surviving today, it's about not becoming financially vulnerable later in life. Middle-class households often underestimate how much future stability depends on long-term planning. Without retirement savings, the risk doesn't show up immediately. It shows up gradually. I'm talking about the need to work longer than expected, depending on others or losing flexibility as health declines. Retirement accounts allow the middle class to slowly build independence over time. They don't require perfect decisions. They reward consistency. Small contributions, made steadily, create long-term protection. While emergency funds protect against short-term disruptions and insurance protects against catastrophic events, retirement accounts protect against aging itself. They ensure that stability doesn't quietly disappear as time passes. For the middle class, retirement savings aren't about luxury. They're about control over the future. Now, how do all three tools work together? These three tools are powerful because they operate on different timelines and protect against different types of risks. The emergency funds handle the short-term disruptions. The insurance handles rare but devastating events. And the retirement accounts handle long-term vulnerability. Together, they create layers of protection. If one layer fails, the others still stand. Without an emergency fund, small problems escalate. Without insurance, rare events become disasters. Without retirement savings, stability fades later in life. But when all three exist together, they reinforce each other. Emergency funds prevent you from touching retirement accounts. Insurance prevents you from draining emergency funds for catastrophic events. Retirement accounts reduce future dependence and stress. This layered approach is what real stability looks like. Not big wins, not flashy strategies, just a system designed to survive real life. What are some riskier strategies that people often try? Many middle-class households are encouraged to prioritize growth before protection. They invest aggressively, they maximize returns, and put money to work immediately. And sometimes that approach works when nothing goes wrong. The risk isn't that these strategies are always wrong. The risk is that they assume uninterrupted progress. When emergencies happen without cash reserves, investments can get sold at bad times, retirement accounts can get tapped early, or debt fills the gap. We're talking about years of compounding that disappear in a single moment. Growth-focused strategies amplify outcomes in both directions. For people with large buffers, that volatility is manageable. For the middle class, it can sometimes undo years of careful progress. The question isn't whether growth is good or bad. It's whether your financial system can survive disruption without breaking. Protection-first strategies reduce upside slightly, but they dramatically reduce downside. Now, let's look at liquidity and lifestyle flexibility. One often overlooked part of middle-class stability is liquidity and lifestyle flexibility. Stability improves when your financial life isn't rigid, meaning when expenses aren't locked in as tightly as income. Those high fixed costs reduce your options, and the long-term contracts limit your adaptability. And so, lifestyle inflation often makes recovery harder when a problem occurs. Here, when we talk about liquidity, it means having access to cash fast, and flexibility means the ability for households to adjust without panic. This doesn't mean living small or avoiding comfort. It means understanding that flexibility is a form of protection. The easier it is to reduce expenses temporarily, the less damage emergencies cause. Liquidity works alongside emergency funds, insurance, and retirement savings. It lowers the pressure on all of them. Stability improves not just from having tools, but from designing a life that can bend instead of break. Finally, stability is built, not earned. Middle-class stability isn't something you achieve once and keep forever. It's not guaranteed by income, education, or hard work alone. It's built deliberately over time through structure, emergency funds, insurance, retirement savings, liquidity. None of these tools are exciting. None of them create instant gratification. But together they quietly do something powerful. They protect your progress. They turn disruptions into setbacks instead of disasters. And that's what real stability is. Not wealth, not appearances. The ability to absorb shocks and keep moving forward. If this video helped you rethink what financial stability really means, click on one of the videos on your screen right now.